Hello YouTube, and welcome back to another episode of The Richter Show. So I actually came to the end of my trip, sadly. But it was not in vain. I had an amazing time here. I had a good time. It was just great. So I'm going to give you my thoughts based on my experience on the time that I had here in Baku, in the country of Azerbaijan. So, the food, oh my goodness. It was just amazing. The food was so delicious. I could eat the same thing every day just because the taste and the flavor of it was so amazing. I tried the typical food here in Baku, some of it, and let me tell you, it was just one of the best meals that I've ever had. Now, getting around the city was actually very easy, very simple. This is not sponsored, but as an example, I use an app called Bolt. It's similar to Uber, and that's what I used here to get around the city. Honestly, I was just paying a few bucks. In terms of dollars, I was just paying a few dollars. It was actually not only convenient, but it was actually cheap. Cheap for me because I actually make dollars. So coming to a country where you can save yourself a lot of money on transportation, that's good. Of course, you can use public transportation, but when the exchange rate from dollars is so cheap, you actually end up using more of your private vehicle, your private service. I actually like the Azerbaijan Beer. I tried it. It was actually very refreshing, especially when you walked all day and you were actually out in the sun. It felt nice. It felt good. I actually liked the flavor of it. I'm more of a light beer type of person, and actually it was perfect for me. It just really hit the spot. The local people were actually very friendly to foreigners. They were actually very helpful. If I had a question, I could easily come up to somebody and say, hey, I'm trying to find this place, or help me translate this. And they were actually very helpful for me. I found that very nice, actually. I walked around during the daytime. I walked around during the nighttime. I felt safe all the time. The amount of police vehicles around the city was very noticeable, and I felt safe the entire time. I didn't feel at any point that my life was in danger or I was scared. So that's a good thing, actually. And I thank the city and the police department for that. As much as I searched, the crime rate is actually very low. Now let's talk about, obviously, COVID and the pandemic. At least for me, to enter the country, I did not have to present a PCR test, and I didn't have to show my COVID vaccination either. There is, as far as I saw, zero mask mandate. So everywhere I went, nobody had a mask. You didn't have to wear a mask anywhere. So that's a comfort. That is actually comfortable. Not once did I find a place that told me, hey, you gotta put a mask on. When I looked at the city, I felt like the city was growing. You can see from the structures, from the businesses, it's a city that's actually coming up and flourishing. Now, this is one of the hard ones actually for me. Almost every country that I go to, there's always a scam. There's always a scam. And let me tell you, for the first time in the history of me traveling, I did not encounter a single scammer. Okay? The only time that I could say that I was getting scammed, quote unquote, was when I was at the airport and I was trying to get a taxi to bring me to the hotel. But that's something that happens in every country. You can never get a taxi from the airport to your hotel because it's going to be super pricey. But when I was on the street, I didn't feel like anybody approached me to scam me. Now, there was a few people trying to offer services, like tour services, but I think that was kind of normal. I didn't ask for prices because I'm the type of person that doesn't like to be in big groups and then I can't hear or ask questions. I'm the type of person that just likes to walk around by myself. I know the tourist points, I go to the museums, and I like to learn on my own. Now, my favorite part of the whole trip was the old city or the inner city. It was just amazing. The entire old city is surrounded and protected by walls. That's how the original city was. You know, it was just surrounded by walls to protect itself, and you can still see it and feel it when you're in there. Everything's kind of cramped together, but it's interesting to see and walk around the old city. It was how the people used to live. So I can actually imagine knights walking around, let's put it that way. People with swords and shields and helmets. It was actually a very neat experience, and it was filled with so many amazing structures and architect, and you can actually feel, see, and hear the old city walls and that vibe that it gives you. Even though it's been modernized a little bit, the original buildings are still there, and it's very well preserved actually. I actually learned so many things about the country and the city. I had never studied the city before. I never even really knew about the country through my education, but coming here really expanded my mind. It really broadened my knowledge. It's one of the unique experience actually when you come to these countries that are not so much on people's list, but you're missing out, and it's worth coming and visiting and checking it out. I really did enjoy the city of Baku, the country of Azerbaijan, and if I get an opportunity, I would definitely come again and explore even more. Now, remember that I don't sugarcoat anything, okay? So I want to actually talk about 3 basic bad things that I did notice about the city. I'll start it off with just the point that when I got to the airport, the amount of taxi drivers trying to get me to use their services was a little bit annoying. I know they're trying to make money, but when you start off with charging more than what it is, you're actually losing out on customers, and you're actually scaring tourists away, especially when they find out that you overpaid. As soon as I walked out of the airport, I saw that taxi drivers were actually trying to show me like the keys to their car. They'll say, hey look, I got a Mercedes. Hey look, I got a BMW, use my services. Honestly, when you're just trying to get to your hotel, that doesn't matter really. You don't really need to be getting in a BMW or a Mercedes. Any other type of vehicle that's not luxurious can get you to the destination, and it can save you a lot of money. Now, I have to mention the traffic here. It was, at points, just terrible. Now, I think that one of the reasons why it's terrible is because the city is kind of cramped together, buildings with buildings, that the streets, I'm going to assume that weren't really made for vehicles probably. They were made for probably carriages and horses, and they didn't think about cars back then, obviously. So there is a lot of traffic, and I noticed that most of the city is a one-way street. Not like, for example, in the US where you have two-way streets. Mostly here in the city was a one-way, so sometimes trying to get to a location, you had to like go one way for quite a while before you can actually find a place that you can actually turn to maybe even make a U-turn, because you have to go back to a little bit back from where you actually were. And the last thing that I want to say about negative about the city was something that's temporary from when I actually came here, which was that the Formula One was happening. I wasn't really aware of that until I got to the city, and I noticed that backed up traffic even more. A lot of places were closed. Some places were inaccessible, and I did miss out on a few places that I wanted to see just because the Formula One race was going on. And I did notice that a lot of the locals were upset and angry actually at this event happening, because it kind of disconnected the city and it made such an inconvenience to places. So there you have it. Those are my thoughts about the country of Azerbaijan, specifically in the city of Baku. And I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope this motivates you to actually come to this country and check it out for yourself. And don't forget to like and subscribe if you want to see more content like this. See you in the next country.
Shout out to the host, the Richter. This the Richter show, the Richter show.